Modern Warfare is so close, you can practically smell it. I'm incredibly excited to jump in and play. Hopefully you guys are as well. So today, I wanted to talk to you guys about some tips that I think you could use for day one, going into your first experiences via gameplay, some general housekeeping things you probably should keep an eye out for. This information coming from the past, the beta, the alpha, some settings that we've seen there, some things that we learned about the game, and some information that has been put out in the wild that we may not have seen in game just yet, but has been out there. So I wanted to cover some bases and give you some areas of focus to start so that when you jump in, you might have that leg up compared to your enemy. Before we begin, just want to seriously say thank you so much for the support over the last couple of days. It's literally been mind-blowing, so much to the point that we hit trending on gaming YouTube. That is... I can't fathom that. You guys broke espresso.exe. But in all seriousness, I genuinely can't thank you guys enough for the support as of recently. I'm so excited to bring you guys all the launch content we have planned here at this, so hopefully you're looking forward to it. And if you're new, of course, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single bit of it. We have so much planned. That said, let's jump into the tips. One of the big ones that I definitely want to suggest right out of the gate is dealing with crossplay. Crossplay is one of those big ticket items this year for Call of Duty. It's the first time we'll see it in the Call of Duty franchise, and of course, it's a way to bring together all your friends from across the different platforms. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC all playing in unison, and as we know, even getting things like DLC maps all at the same time. So that'll be cool to see that everything is all unified on one front there. So how you take part in this is, of course, making sure you have an account that works with crossplay. Unfortunately, this is an extra step instead of just simply putting in your disc and playing the game. If you've played in the beta, chances are you already have one, but if you do not, you want to go to profile.callofduty.com. From there, you can set one up, you can log in, and that will set you up for crossplay. You can link your accounts so that your PlayStation or Xbox account can be linked to your Call of Duty account, and then your friends can find your Call of Duty account from there. In-game, that's how you'll be able to find players. You'll be able to party up with them, since naturally you can't send invites across PS4 to Xbox and so on, so you'll have to add your friends via Call of Duty account in-game. So make sure you're set up with that so you can take advantage of the full range of the crossplay spectrum here with this. Now, I would imagine if you didn't want it, you could opt out in it. I'm pretty sure this was confirmed by developers during some Q&As, but maybe I'm misremembering it. But even if I was misremembering it, it would make sense to me that you'd end up being able to. So that might be something we see come launch and day one that you can opt out, but personally, I don't see why you would. It just increases the lobby pool and matchmaking, so it should make the experience better. Now, before we hit some general setting tips here for day one and stuff that can really help out your experience, let's talk a little bit about gameplay, what we can expect in terms of when we actually jump into the matches themselves. Two things in particular that I really haven't heard too much talk about, but are definitely tips that will definitely be helpful depending on what loadout you want to build out, and of course, how you want to play. Firstly, let's talk about some key attachments and some of those conversion kits that we really haven't seen much of any in-game because they weren't really there for the beta. So before we talk a little bit about what the conversion kits can do, probably my top 5 attachments for you guys to take into account would be things like the 10mm ammo mag for the MP5. That thing was already nuts, and that made the damage even better for the MP5 when you equip that. Other things including, say, the stippled pistol grip. That is something that was across multiple weapons, and it increased the ADS speed. The heavy-duty barrel, again, was something across a couple of weapons that increased damage range. And finally, the last two of perks of frangible wounding and frangible disabling. Now, those of course sound weird being that they're perks but as attachments, but it's a weapon perk. So frangible wounding delays the health regeneration process of the enemy when they're shot, and then also frangible disabling delays that tactical super sprint, if you will, that ability the players have right after they get shot as well. So those are absolutely huge, and of course if you have those, it might give you the leg up immediately jumping into the game, but of course with the weapon progression, it might take a little bit of time to unlock some of these, and given that we have more attachments now in the full game compared to the beta, some of the leveling might be a little bit different, but whenever you get to those, definitely try them out. The conversion kits though are something that again we haven't really seen too much of, but we know that's going to be a way to turn the things like the AK-47 into the 74U, into things like the RPK and others out there. So while the AK-47 has a few that have already been talked about by developers and that we've seen some footage in press releases from, other weapons may have some different conversion kits that do very similar things but we just don't know of just yet. So keep an eye out for those ones. Next, one thing that I want to talk about, the third thing here for this tip, is if you guys don't want to play specifically for kill streaks, you likely won't have to. It's already been confirmed that there is a perk in the game that will turn your kill streaks into score streaks, so that if you don't want to focus on simply just killing, you can work towards your streaks with capping flags or objectives, getting assists for your teammate kills, things like that. you can. Now, this is rumored to be called Point Man from leaks a while back, though of course we'll see if that holds up for whenever servers go live and the people with the early copies end up probably posting stuff a little earlier than they should before embargo, and also when the game launches globally to everyone. But while this does sound enticing for players that don't really care too much for kill streaks, it is something we have to be conscious is subject to rank progression. There is no word yet if it is something earned early on or later on in the rank progression. It also doesn't look to change the fact that you can only get your streaks once. It doesn't roll them, whereas kill streaks also don't. You get those once per life and that's it. Very similar to how you had in Modern Warfare through Modern Warfare 2. Before we jump into some actual technical tips with your settings and all, I want to give you one final thing in gameplay wise that actually kind of encompasses a couple of tips, so consider this tip a folder of tips, if you will. Let's talk firstly about some things in game like sprinting. Sprinting has a new feature called the tactical sprint, which you double click your sprint button and it will sprint a little bit faster as a little boost, if you will, and then continue on into a regular run. That sprint can be adjusted with things like perks in game, but it is something that will eventually run out. This is something that is very useful for getting across the map, obviously, but definitely requires some map knowledge and awareness and some conscious thought behind when to do it. If you end up running around a corner with your tactical sprint, chances are if there's somebody there, even if they're not pre-aiming that corner, you're probably going to lose that gunfight, because the time that it takes you to end up getting your weapon to ADS is about twice as long as it would take them, so therefore they already have the jump up on you, and that's again assuming they don't have their weapon up, which they very well may, especially if it's a power position. One thing that I'd like to throw in there as well to kind of compound on top of this is, if you haven't done it already, consider playing with a sort of strafe mentality where you aim down sight but you check corners while you round them. This is something that'll of course help you in a gunfight if a player is sprinting towards you or even just slowly walking or running towards you. This will help you have that gun up and ready for an engagement, whereas they may not. And of course, there's many things in the gunsmith that can help you with your ADS movement speed. So take a look at that kind of stuff. And as always, remember to check those corners. But anyways, on to the next tips here. These next couple are going to be setting wise and things that can help you from a technical standpoint. So in terms of actual gameplay, they may not be the most pertinent, but in terms of setting you up for gameplay, that's where I really want to concentrate with these ones. Firstly, I want to talk to you guys about making sure you're aware of your aim assist settings. For the first time within Call of Duty, we actually have multiple selectable options for how your aim assist will work in game. Coming down to more in-depth pieces such as the actual aim assist overall, but then also your aim response curve type. These things at a top-down level you might not think about at all, but they offer some advantages in their own right. Now for aim assist in the beta, we ended up seeing the ability to have it disabled, have standard aim assist, precision, or focusing. Precision was something that offered strong aim slowdown that only would kick in when aiming closer to the target, and that was something used for more accurate players. Focusing had strong aim slowdown, but that also then only kicked in when narrowly missing the target as well. So a little bit less accurate, but still something that was a more refined compared to the standard. Now in terms of the aim response curve type, these offer the options of standard, linear, and dynamic, to which standard is your regular aiming. Linear ended up having your aim stick map directly tethered to the aim rate, and then dynamic had a reverse S-curve mapping for a more fine aim rate. So to many that might sound like gibberish. Aim assist is just simply how much it will stick to the enemy whenever you start to ADS in, but also that aim response curve type also then dictate the responsiveness to the power from a 0 point, that being the center on your aim stick whenever it's just sitting there naturally, to 100 when it's pushed all the way to the side. Admittedly, I cannot, for the sake of tips, give you guys a specific use this combination of aim setting and also response curve type, because it comes down to your own personal preference. It comes down to what you, the player, feels comfortable with. So the tip here that I'd say is just to simply check this out. Maybe jump into, if there are private matches with bots, something like that, just to kind of test out the different settings and see which one feels the most natural to you. Same thing also goes for the ADS sensitivity. Following suit with Black Ops 4, we have ADS specific sensitivity in Modern Warfare, or at least we did in the beta. Can't imagine that's going to go away with the full launch. So if that's the case, well then definitely check it out. I know a lot of players played on a 0.75 ADS sensitivity, if I'm not mistaken, last year in Black Ops 4. I didn't really personally mess around with it all that much, but it was something that from those that had played around with it, that messed around and changed their setting, they absolutely praised that, said it was one of the best settings that they had the option to tweak in Black Ops 4. So with that being something in Modern Warfare, check it out for yourself because maybe it does make a huge difference to you and how you play the game. Then talking more personal stuff here with this is audio settings. We saw that there was in the alpha and then also the beta, there was a changeover there where their audio settings changed between the two. So who knows if it changes again with the full launch, but there are custom presets made for how the game's audio can work and which can help you out in a wide range of mediums. If you play with headphones in, there's something that settings help with that. If you play with a headset, that's something that will have a preset as well. And if you just play through your TV speakers, there's something that will be mixed for that too. Just play around with those and try and hear exactly what sounds the best to you, what you can distinguish in terms of different audio cues in game that could potentially help you out the most. The final thing we'll talk about in terms of settings to make sure you have set up and checked out to your own liking before we jump back into some regular general shop talk is that of film grain and motion blur. These are things we had the ability to turn off within the alpha as well as the beta, but motion blur has two separate options, weapon and world motion blur. Motion blur is cool if you like the cinematic feel, but it also interferes with the clarity of your picture and your viewpoint naturally as you move. So to me, it's best to turn both of these off, but of course that again is completely up to you. Will it immediately make you invincible? No, but at least will give you a little clearer of an image to hopefully be able to spot your enemies even while you're turning. Film grain is one that I'm not really sure why it's even added in games admittedly, but it can blur your image in an attempt to make it feel cinematic or artistic with some of that image processing on said image that you're looking at. Personally, I lower this down. I'd recommend the same, but of course, as with all the settings, it's really down to your own perception and how you feel you like it. So you may like it, who knows? Breaking away from settings, talking general shop talk once again, one thing that I would definitely say as a tip is just to check out campaign and spec ops, not just MP. Not only does the narrative of campaign look to be something that one, I'm incredibly fascinated by, we haven't heard really much of anything with this, so I really want to know what's happening firstly, and then two, it's Modern Warfare. There's got to be some awesome twists and stuff in there. Spec Ops looks to be almost somewhat open worldish from what we've seen so far, and that has me intrigued beyond belief. But the one thing that I'm really curious about is because they've stressed so much playing amongst the different modes, the cross progression, which we'll actually talk about in a second here as another tip to know going into day one. I kind of wouldn't be surprised if there's something tethered to campaign or spec ops only that ends up being something unlocked in MP. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case, but regardless, even if it is, if it's not, definitely try some other stuff out to get your bearings on everything that will be on offer. And finally, talking about that cross progression, don't be afraid to grind elsewhere. Something, say, like Spec Ops rather than MP. Maybe you're burnt out, you play a full day of MP, and you just want to try something else out. Don't be afraid to grind, say, Spec Ops. From what we're told, there's a lot of cross progression between MP and Spec Ops specifically. I don't know if campaign's been elaborated on much, if there's going to be anything where you can grind out weapon levels or anything in campaign and it transfers over to MP, but grinding things like maybe your weapons could be easier against waves of enemies. That's also assuming it's a one-to-one valuation, which we just simply don't know. It is very possible that the idea of farming was accounted for, and so that rank progression could be a little slower in Spec Ops compared to MP. But while we don't know, it is something definitely to consider. And of course, while once again coming back to that previously mentioned tip of trying to just get the lay of the land for everything, it's absolutely worthwhile, I think. But I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up. That is 10 tips here and a couple extra ones thrown in there as well, smaller compounded into be like a group of a tip. But regardless, that's 10 things I wanted to talk to you guys about and kind of convey before we jump into everything with Modern Warfare. The launch is so close. For some of you guys, it is less than a day away depending on where you're at in the world. So we are just about there. Hold out just a little bit, and of course, you might want to stick around here on the channel maybe tomorrow for some stuff. But anyways, thank you guys all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Is there anything in particular that you guys are looking forward to here out of Modern Warfare? What are you looking forward to the most? Let me know your thoughts. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But all that said and out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine is the Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.